For over 3 decades, a shadow hung over Austin, Texas. A crime so brutal, so senseless, it scarred the heart of the city and left a wound that refused to heal. This is the story of the yogurt shop murders, a case that haunted investigators, shattered families, and wrongfully imprisoned innocent men for years. But it's also a story of relentless pursuit, scientific breakthroughs, and the ultimate, long-awaited arrival of truth. Our story begins on a cold December night in 1991. Inside an unbelieveth yoga shop for bright young lives were extinguished in an act of unimaginable violence. 13-year-old Amy Ayers, sisters Jennifer and Sarah Harbison, aged 17 and 15, and 17-year-old Eliza Thomas were found after a fire had been set to cover the crime. The community was left reeling, desperate for answers and for justice. In the frantic initial investigation, pressure mounted on the Austin Police Department. This pressure led them down a path that would create another layer of tragedy. For young men, Robert Springsteen, Mikael Scott, Maurice Pierce, and Forrest Welburn were arrested under intense interrogation. 2 of them gave coerced confessions, riddled with inconsistencies and details that didn't match the crime scene. Despite a lack of physical evidence connecting them to the shop, Springsteen and Scott were convicted and sent to prison. Pierce was tried but acquitted, and charges against Welburn were eventually dropped. For the families of the victims, it seemed like justice, but for the accused and their families, it was the beginning of a nightmare. They maintained their innocence, but their voices were lost in the public demand for a conviction. Years turned into a decade. The convicted men sat in prison while doubts about the investigation grew louder. Then, in 2009, a pivotal moment arrived. Advances in DNA technology allowed for new testing on evidence from the crime scene. The results were stunning. The DNA found did not match any of the 4 accused men. Instead, it pointed to an unknown male. The case against Springsteen, Scott, Pierce, and Welburn completely fell apart. They were exonerated and released, but their lives were irrevocably changed. The justice system had failed them, and the real killer was still a ghost. The case went cold, officially unsolved, leaving 2 sets of victims in its wake. The 4 murdered girls and the 4 men whose youth was stolen. For 13 more years, the case file gathered dust. It seemed the mystery would remain buried forever. But some stories refused to stay silent. In 2022, a new generation of investigators, armed with 21st century tools, decided to take a fresh look. Detective Daniel Jackson of the Austin Police Department reopened the case, determined to succeed where others had failed. He wasn't just looking at old files, he was bringing the full force of modern forensic science to bear on a 30-year-old crime. This wasn't just another cold case for him. It was a mission to finally deliver answers. The first major break came from an unexpected source. A tiny piece of metal. It was a .380 caliber shell casing recovered from the yogurt shop back in 1991. For decades, it offered no leads. But in June of 2025, investigators ran it through an upgraded ballistics database called NIBIN. The new software, far more powerful than its predecessors, scored a hit. The shell casing from the Austin yogurt shop was a match to shell casings from other unsolved crimes in different states from the 1990s. Suddenly, this wasn't just an Austin case anymore. It was part of a larger interstate puzzle. The ghost was starting to take shape. With the ballistics link established, the focus returned to the DNA. The original DNA profile found in 2009 was from an unknown male. But now, investigators could use a revolutionary technique called YS tRDNA testing. This method focuses on the male Y chromosome and is incredibly powerful for identifying male lineages. Even with degraded or limited samples, they retested crucial evidence, including scrapings from under a victim's fingernails, a clear sign of a desperate fight for life. The YSTR analysis yielded a complete profile. This profile was then uploaded to a forensic genealogy database. This technology combines DNA analysis with traditional family tree research to identify potential relatives of an unknown suspect. In August of 2025, they got a name: Robert Eugene Brashers. The name sent a jolt through the investigation. Brashers was not just some random person. He had a criminal record and was linked to a string of crimes across multiple states in the 1990s, including South Carolina, Missouri, and Kentucky, the very states flagged by the ballistics match. There was just one problem. Robert Brashers had died in 1999. The killer they had been hunting for 34 years was already gone. With Brashers identified as the prime suspect, the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place with astonishing speed. Investigators from Texas, Kentucky, and other jurisdictions began sharing notes, connecting dots that had been invisible for decades. On September 26, 2025, the Austin Police Department held a press conference. After 34 years of silence, speculation, and false starts, they officially named Robert Eugene Brashers as the man responsible for the yogurt shop murders. They explained how the combination of ballistic evidence, YSTR-DNA, and forensic genealogy had cracked a case that once seemed unsolvable. For the families of Amy, Jennifer, Sarah, and Eliza, the news was bittersweet. The man who took their daughters could never face a court of law, but they finally had a name. They finally had the truth. The cloud of uncertainty that had lingered for a lifetime had finally lifted. For the four men who had been wrongfully accused, this was the final, definitive proof of their innocence. In December 2025, the Travis County District Attorney filed motions to formally and legally exonerate them, closing a chapter of profound injustice. The story doesn't even end there. The evidence that identified Brashers in the yoga shop case began a domino effect, solving other cold cases. One of them was the 1998 murder of Linda Rutledge in Kentucky. The same ballistic and DNA links that pointed to Brashers in Austin also placed him at the scene of her death, bringing another family long overdue answers. This cross-state collaboration, powered by science, showed just how far-reaching one person's trail of violence could be. The resolution of the yogurt shop murders is a powerful testament to the evolution of forensic science and the unwavering dedication of law enforcement. It's a story about how technology can right historical wrongs and deliver justice, even decades later. It reminds us that behind every cold case file, there are real people, real families, waiting for answers. And sometimes, through persistence and innovation, those answers finally come. For the city of Austin, and for everyone touched by this tragedy, it marks the end of a long, dark road. The shadow has finally receded, replaced by the clear, undeniable light of truth. Thank you for watching. If you found this story of justice and scientific discovery compelling, please like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into cases where truth prevails.